So wherever you're at in your life, I don't care where it is. I don't care what part of your journey you're at, whether you're at the beginning, in the middle, or the end. I don't know. You need to be rewarding yourself and acknowledging every single time that you win. Every win that you have, you either pat yourself in the back, even acknowledge just like, good job, Johnny, we won. If it's just as simple as that, acknowledging you won. Just acknowledge you win. Recognize your wins. Reward yourself. What is up? It's your boy Johnny Street Live, BB Promos to Tell Like It Is. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, Uncut. Very long since I've done one of these, but I thought it would be important that I go over this because I've been getting a ton of consults, a ton of feedback and stuff. Just congratulating me on getting a new car or whatever part of my life, whatever it is. And I have these awesome consults that are not just about fitness, man. It's about it's obviously about your fitness goals, but like anything, So I've been asked a few questions, and I wanted to share this because I feel like it's something that needs to be shared. Whenever we hear about success stories, or if we see somebody starting to succeed, we hear maybe a little bit of the come up, but like we don't really see all of the years of failing and trial and error and failing and all that stuff, and all the all the times where giving up was completely acceptable, and it's not acceptable. You know what I'm saying? Like in situations where it's like, if I had that, I would give up. So having being where I'm at right now, and people ask me, because a lot of people follow my journey, and they know that I've come from a place where I've effed things right up. You know what I mean? I've been poor. I've been through addictions and the works. So there was a question I was asking, was basically like, what was like one of the most pivotal things or situations in your life? One of those like ESPN turning moments, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, I remember completely, because one thing that I always had an issue with myself was value, understanding my own value. And that's something I've always, I would disguise being humble. I would blanket, lower my value by being humble. Would never really appreciate or acknowledge something that I've done. I'd do a show, come second place, and not even give myself an award for that, but be like, let's go. How can we be better? Or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I was actively going to therapy. It's 2014. I was in therapy. Basically, it was like I just started. We call the Crisis Mobile whatever team and whatnot, and I got to get into therapy in the next, like in January, like it was the end of the 2014, whatever. Besides the point, I get in and I get this woman, and she's super nice, and she was like basically like my first person I would talk to that would kind of give me, who would best suit my situation or me for a therapist, psychologist, whatever. So we're just sitting there talking, and I was like, man, I hope I get her, because she's actually awesome, like the way she spoke, the way she would, Anyway, so she sits there, and for me, a lot of things in my life would happen that I've been diagnosed with BPD, which is, you guys would be like, wow. I'm like, yes, I've been diagnosed with BPD, and this is how I'm living my life. So for me, it's a win. I'm winning. But like, a lot of things in my life that were very hard for me to get through while, being diagnosed very late was, I was poor at a point. Like I couldn't afford, I would run out on rent. I would, it was either rent, drugs, or food. One of the three. And, I would really never pick the one with the most responsibility, obviously, right? It was mostly the drugs, and it was kind of food. Then it was like rent, or it would shuffle or whatever. And, to the point where I was at, I was like, I was already, into bodybuilding, and I was already like, everything was getting good. It's been like, I was on a really good track, and there's something about me that wasn't, after going through addictions, there's something about me that just still wasn't kind of there. And I basically was like, I'm dealing with depression, and I need to go see somebody. And through that, going down the rabbit hole, it got to a point of like, okay, this is what you're diagnosed with. Anyway, I was sitting in the room, and we're talking, and she asked me, like, if there's one thing right now that you could fix, there's one thing that you can change right now that would make things better, what would it be? And I would be like, and I was like, money. And she's like, what would you do with it? And, we're doing like, we did a body scan. So I'm like literally just sitting there kind of like in this place where I'm like in my head, my eyes are closed. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'd pay my mom and dad back for every penny that they've lent me that I stole from them. Pay back any of my friends that I owed. Give my brother money for his kids, because at the time my kids were, there was 7 years ago. They're 12 and 9, which is cool. And it was like, I want to be able to provide for them, give my best friend this, get my aunt Marilyn that, get my aunt Dumpy this, get my uncle that, get this person this, get that person that. And I listed off a bunch of things, like, and I was like, in my heart, I was like, man, I was feeling good saying this, because because I was in the moment. I'm like, if I could have this money, I could be able to give and provide. And for me, that's what success is. If I can just do these things and make this money, then I can take care of the people that I love. That's what I want to do. And I said this to her, and she sits quietly, and she's like, do you know after everybody you listed off, you gave yourself nothing? And I was like, and I remember like to today, because it still gives me like goosebumps. I just started bawling my eyes out. I just started just weeping. I had a life coach a bit before that was always talking to me about value, and I thought it was, I thought it was kind of getting there, and it really occurred to me that I didn't see myself as worthy enough to give. You know what I mean? And that day, that conversation rocked me. It rocked me hard. I was like, wow. And the obvious lesson is like in hindsight, and from that day forward, honestly, I made it a point to reward myself in any possible way. And at that point in my life, rewarding myself wasn't necessarily like go buy yourself something, because I didn't like necessarily have enough money to go and like just go buy things or whatever. And I'll get to that point anyway. But at that point, it was like reward yourself on every single win that you have. Whatever it is, you got to go eat something, you got to go do something that makes you feel, accomplished or validated, whatever it is. Go reward yourself. Get your body used to, having a positive reaction to a conscious action. Like get to like do that. Like and I made it a point to do that. And that saved me through the way, because, for me it was like, if I go through some triggers and, I necessarily don't cope with them the most positive way, I knew that was going to be a struggle at the beginning. So for me, it was like any win that you have, acknowledge it, because you'll start winning more and more and more. And then when you win more and acknowledge that you're winning, you want to reinforce that over and over and over again. And I had a consult with the gentleman the other day, and he was telling me about, that, where he is, last time we talked and now things have worked, but, he's changed a lot of things in his training and this and that. And, he's been recovering better, blah, blah, blah. But in this other part of his mental health was like, he attempted or had thoughts or attempted of suicide. And I'm looking at him like, you're here. He's like, yeah. I'm like, yo, think of this. This might be triggering for some people, so bear with me. If you get into a fight, you're walking down the street, whatever it is, and you're in some situation where you just want to live and you have somebody that is threatening your life. I don't know, you're at gunpoint, you're in a fight, whatever it is, that in your heart and in this situation that you might die at the end of this fucking battle. You might die. And you go through this fight and you fight and you struggle and you fight and you struggle. You might get knocked down, beat up. You might even get like maybe shot at or whatever it is. You fight, and then you come on top and you win. And you come out of this thing and you're like, oh my God, you were almost in a car accident, almost hit you, something. And you're still here. And you're like, how do you think you feel? Knowing that you just went through a situation that was life-threatening and you came out on the other end. You will be like grateful for every breath that you have. I told that to the gentleman. I'm like, you need to reward yourself. You need to reward yourself. that happened to you within you. You might have had those thoughts or even attempted, but you won. You're here right now. Reward yourself. You need to go and tell people about it, or whatever it is. You need to reinforce the fact that you came out on top of a situation that could have left you non-existent. And that might have been from like, that example might be from, very extreme or whatever. But the point is that if you want to succeed in your life, you have to be the one that's rewarding you first. Because if you're waiting for everyone else, if you're waiting for a situation, or you're waiting for the reward, or you're waiting for whoever or whatever to tell you or congratulate you or to, reinforce that, you'll be waiting too long. Because the first person in your life that should be rewarding you is you. So wherever you're at in your life, I don't care where it is. I don't care what part of your journey you're at, whether you're at the beginning, in the middle, or the end. I don't know. You need to be rewarding yourself and acknowledging every single time that you win. Every win that you have, you either pat yourself on the back, even acknowledge it, like, good job. Good job, Johnny. We won. If it's just as simple as that, acknowledging you won. Just acknowledge you win. Recognize your wins. Reward yourself. Verbal affirmations. Physical, rewards of some sort. I don't care what it is. Go buy yourself a new pair of shoes to go to the gym in. Go buy yourself a new shirt or some headphones, or I don't know what it is. But whatever it is, it's going to reward you for the win. I thought I had to share that with you guys. Anyway, that's it. So, you know how it is. Iron sharpens iron. Progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing.